My name is BHATIA and I'm here to show you about BHIC 131 class and our topic Unit 10. In our earlier class, we have discussed a lot of things about Janpadas, Mahajanpadas, the rise of urban centers and all. Because last last topic was very much lengthy. We have seen 16 margin padas. We have 16 margin padas. Among 16, Magda was a main and very important margin pada at that time. We have discussed so many things related to that. We have discussed a lot of things like, yes, we can see. Uh, These are the 16 margin padas were there, and the capitals were there of 16 margin padas. Background, because we have discussed about 6th century BCE. Which period we are talking about? 6th century BCE. Archaeological records we have seen, literary records we have seen, and we have seen a lot of works which were doing at that time. Where? In Gangetic Valley. Vedic sacrifices we have seen in this period, the sources of information. Yes, Vedas, Upanishads, Vedic literature, and all Pitakas, Vinay Pitaka, Sutta Pitaka, Abhidham Pitaka, Buddhist texts, which were very important texts of that period. Cities of 6th century BCE. Yes, you can see in this map also. Magda, main important, and rest of all were important, but just we can say that very important city of that period was Magda. Literature, we have seen literature, Rigvedic, Samveda, Atharva Veda, Yajur Veda. Four Vedas were there, which we have studied about, and these were the most important Mahajanpadas. Six Mahajanpadas: Champa, Rajgriha, Kashi, Sravasti, Saket, and Kaushambi. Just we have recalled. We are going to recall just to understand other things. Made of the city in ancient India. Yes, we have discussed about in our last class ancient cities, how markets were busy, how gardens, how ponds were made, how these are parts of their description in text. The walk through the city. Next, items of exchange. Yes, we have discussed in our earlier class that the barter system they were doing at that time. Barter system means the thing in exchange the thing. Okay, there were no coins, there were no currency at that time, so that they can trade with the help of currency. They used barter system, exchange system they were doing at that time. To shopkeepers, we can say panika. Retailers, we can say cry vikray. Next, money investors, we can say sethi, ganpatis. These were the other terms which we were using at that time. City in archaeology. Archaeology. Which type of buildings we have got in 6th century BCE except literary sources? Except literary sources, the sources which we can say archaeological sources, and archaeological sources just a market area, just like garden, just like ponds, which we have got in excavation, so that we can understand about the time period of about the resources of 6th century BCE. Units of settlement. Janpada. What is Janpada? Contemporary texts indicate that changes in society and economy were taking place in a well-defined geographical space. The literature related to period that the 269 are discussing refers to various kinds of units of settlements. Just like we can say Janpada, Mahajanpada, Nagar, Nigam, Gram. We use these things at that time. There were similar, very little difference between these four terms Janpada, Mahajanpada, Nagar, Nigam. Okay, let us first see what was Janpada. Janpada literally meaning place where people place their feet is often referred to in text of this period. You remember the meaning of Jana? Jana means lord. In the Vedic society, it referred to members of a clan. Clan means a vanch, the members of a clan. In early Vedic society, the members of Jana were pastoral groups roaming in search of pastures. However, in later Vedic phase, the members of Jana took up agriculture and began to settle down. These agricultural settlements were called Janpadas. In initial phases, they were named after dominant Kshatriya lineages settled in that area. For example, the areas around Delhi and Upper UP were known as Kuru and Panchal Janpadas, after the name of dominant Kshatriya lineages. Once they settled down at one place, there was an expansion of agriculture, especially with the use of iron axes and iron plugs here, that could clear forest and dig deeper than the stone or copper tools available to agriculturists of the preceding centuries. Middle Gangetic area east of Prayag was suited to wet rice cultivation. Rice yields are higher than wheat yields per acre. All this would lead to gradual agricultural expansion also, growth of population. The chief of lineages at war with each other had more to loot and defend. This was because besides cattle, now agriculture and other products were also available in larger quantities. Through the process of agricultural expansion, war, conquest, the Vedic tribes had come in closer contact with each other with the non-iron population also. Some of Janpadas were to develop into Mahajanpadas. Janpadas means a small unit, and Mahajanpadas means when a small unit become a big unit, then we can say it Mahajanpada. This happened as a result of series of changes in internal socio-political structure of the Janpadas. One such important change was the expansion of agricultural communities, which is indicated by the fact that the contemporary text lists agricultural land as very important economic asset. These texts discuss variety of rice in as much detail as did the Vedic text about the variety of cows. At the earlier time, before Vedic period, the kings were having wars and battles in because of the cows. They want cow, more and more cow. Okay, on behalf of cow, they were fighting with each other. The king who was having a lot of cows, that is considered very rich king at that time. Yes, we have also always discussed about the four varna system: Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. How can we say? Brahmins, priest; Kshatriya, warriors; Vaishya, merchants, landowners; Shudra, common peasant servants. And the behind the four varnas were outcast, out of caste, or untouchable. Just like street sweepers, just like cleaners, like this. Gehpati. Who is known as Gehpati? The person who is having, uh, who was the head of the family, was known as Gehpati. The other members of the family, they ask before doing any important thing, they ask to the Gehpati, means the father of the family, the grandfather of the family, who was having a lot of powers to run their families. That's why he or she is called Gehpati. As we can say, at the present time, we use Gyapati to our father. Because before doing any important thing, we ask to our father that we should do or not. Because they have a lot of experience and they tell us about what is right and what is wrong behind this. That's why the Gyapati means the term the father of the family, the head of the family. That Gyapati is said to have owned so much of land that he needed 500 plugs to get it cultivated. In later Vedic society, it was the Vish which performed agricultural activities. Vish means a group of the proper agricultural activities which they used as a Vish, VISH. Land was jointly owned by the lineage. With the emergence of agricultural society, land became an important form of wealth. As such, the ruling clans of Kshatriyas and Brahmins brought it under their control. Out of these groups emerged the Gehpati, who signified disintegration of joint ownership and emergence of big individual landowners. They got their land cultivated by slaves, means das, hired laborers, karnkar, and shudras also. People captured during war were made slaves. Impoverishment members of the tribe also joined the ranks of laborers because if they wish that they want to do some labor work, then they could join that. Use of dependent labor was indicative of the emergence of a deprived class whose labor was being used to produce surplus food. Next is before we have studied about Gyapati and now this is merchants. It was possibly from the rank of the Gyapatis that an important class of traders emerged. Traders. Through the sale of their produce, they built up a certain amount of capital which was used for trading. The word frequently used for trader in the Buddhist sources is sethi, meaning a person having the best, seth, which we can say the sethji. It shows that the people who deal with money matters had acquired considerable prestige and power. The Brahminical sources generally look down on trading and Vaishyas who were generally associated with trading. However, by 6th century BCE, trade and merchandise became an independent sphere of economic activity. The traders lived in the cities and their emergence is related to emergence of towns and cities in this period. These merchants traded over very large areas. By trading among different principalities, they created a possibility for kings to try and control large areas visited by them. In 6th century BCE, a class of free peasants and merchants had emerged. Free peasants. They had freed themselves from clan obligation of sharing surplus food and wealth with other members of the lineage as was the case earlier. Private property in farm animals, in land, its produce had emerged as dominant economic reality of the time. Yes, we have studied about merchants, we have studied about traders, we have studied about one more important class that was emerged in trade, that was free peasants. Next, we are going to start ruler and rule. How they rule. Combined with developments in the socio-economic field were changes in the nature of polity and marginal class. In proceeding period of word Raja referred to the chief of lineage, means the chief of the particular society. For example, Ram, whose legends are related to this period, are often referred to as Raghukul Raja, meaning one who rules over the Raghu clan. Similarly, Yudhishthir is also called Kuru Raja. They ruled over their lineage, and notion of the ruler ruling over a territory had not emerged. The taxes collected from the kinsmen were largely voluntary tributes. The king was considered a generous father figure, ensuring the prosperity of the lineage. He did not have any independent taxation system or army. References to the king in 6th century BCE, on the other hand, indicate his rule over a territory with a regular taxation system and army. There are references to Krasaka peasants who paid taxes to the king. Now, the peasant and the army were not linked in any kinship ties with the Raja. King. Now, the peasant and the army were not linked with any kinship ties with the Raja. The distinction was now between Raja and Praja. The Praja include people from the non-lineages group. A standing army implied control over local peasantry through force and attitude of permanent confrontation with the people and kings of neighboring territories. Cattle raids of the preceding period were replaced by organized campaigns in which territory was annexed and agriculturists and traders were forced to pay taxes. Officials entrusted with the work of tax collection are repeatedly mentioned. An official called Bhagaduga, collected Bhaga, share of agriculture produce, means tax collector name Bhagaduga. With the tax which was agriculture, share of agriculture produce, that was also known as tax, means Bhagaduga. Survey of agriculture land was done by an official called Rajuga. The Jatakas mention royal officials measuring out grain to send it to king's granary. The Mahajanpadas did not bear the name of dominant Kshatriya lineages in most of the cases. For example, Kaushala, Magadha, Avanti, Vatsa were not named after any Kshatriya lineages. We can see that a new kind of political system had emerged in 6th century BCE. How? The chief of tribe who used to raid enemy territory and distribute the loot among his followers has transformed into a king having an army unfettered by tribal loyalties. Army was paid out of revenue collected from the cultivators. The Vedic chief's desire for glory and sacrifices led to his breaking away from the lineage. The tribe would not be interested in fighting wars in distant areas and would oppose any regular tax for maintenance of army. This the king needed for his glory and power. His authority was not based on distribution of wealth among fellow tribesmen. It was based on breaking coherent lineage groups and recognizing individuals and groups who would produce wealth. Some of this wealth was taken away from its producers in the form of taxes in a lineages society where everyone was regarded as everyone else relative. Such arbitrary taking away of wealth by the chief would not be allowed. The new king levied tax and protected peasants and merchants from internal and external exile. Means, yesterday in our last page, we have studied about the political system. In our political system, if we recall political system, first of all, what is coming in our mind? The king, and after that, the subject, the praja, the population, which is totally dependent on king, and how they dependent and how the king work. The king take tax on behalf of tax. The king give protection to the subjects, to the population. Units of settlement. Mahajanpada. Earlier we have studied about Janpada. We have studied about Gyapati, traders, merchants, sources. Now we are going to start what is Mahajanpada. A new type of society marked by the presence of Gyapati, the presence of merchant, The relationship between the ruler and ruled was reflected in new kinds of political units called Mahajanapadas. Yes, politico-geographical units means both things are connected, political and geographical. Okay, both things are connected. That unit called Mahajanapadas. The word Mahajanpada means large Janapadas, like those of Magadha, Koshala, etc. They, Mahajanapadas, were ruled by powerful kings or oligarchies. In fact, many of Mahajanpadas in 6th century BCE came up by incorporating Mahajanpadas which were previously autonomous. For example, Koshala Mahajanpada included the Janpada of Shakyas and of Kashi. Magadha came, Magadha came to include the Janpadas of Anga, Vajji, etc. even before it grew into an empire. The new society, which is reflected in contemporary Buddhist texts, can be seen in the story of Jivaka. Historians read these stories to understand the hopes, to understand the ambitions, to understand the struggles of men of those days, and they compare this into present day social mind. And what is Jivaka? The story of Jivaka, the famous physician, comes to us from the time of Buddha. In the city of Rajgriha, means Rajpur, near present-day Patna, there was a prince named Abhay. Prince named Abhay. He saw an abandoned baby on a street. He brought him home and ordered the maid servants to take care of that child. The boy was called Jivak. When Jivak grew up, he wondered what he should do for a living. He decided that he would become a physician, means Vaidya. In those days, Takshila was a very famous center of learning. Jivak decided to go there to learn medicine. He stayed there for 7 years. He studied hard under the guidance of a famous medicine man. At the end of his apprenticeship, his teacher took a test. He asked Jivak to look around the surroundings at Takshila and bring some plants which could not be used for medicinal purposes. Jivak went out and looked about as carefully as he could do for some plants which were useless for medicine. When he returned, the teacher asked him, "How many plants did you find?" Jivak said, Sir, Jivak said, "Sir, I could not find a single plant which did not have any medicinal value." The teacher was very pleased and said that his education was complete. That is the story of Jivak. It came from Jataka stories. If you have Jataka stories book, then you can read over there also. And what is the connectivity of Jataka stories, Jivak story from here? Yes, this is connected because Rajgriha was the capital of the Magadha. Jivak set out for Rajgriha. He ran out for of money after he had covered half the distance only. He looked for some work and found out that the wife of a wealthy merchant had been ill for 7 years. He cured her. The merchant gave him lots of money. Thus, Jiva came back to Rajgriha. In Rajgriha, he became the private physician of King Bimbisar. Bimbisar was so impressed with his skill that he used to send him to look after the Buddha. Thus, Jivak came in contact with the Buddha. He gave lots of gift to Buddhist monks. Just compare the setting of the story with happiness in early Vedic society. No cattle raid, no sacrifices, no priest. The story points to the existence of flourishing urban settlements And important characters of the story are an abandoned child who chooses to become a physician, a merchant, a king, and the Buddha, the exponent of a new doctrine. And look at the geographical range. The early Vedic Aryans seem to have been ranging the plains of Punjab in search of pasture. Jivak travels all the way from the present day Bihar to northwestern border of Punjab. This would mean that he covered a distance of more than 2000 kilometers. To be able to learn the practice of medicine, these new kinds of settlements, new kinds of occupation, new network of roads, and symptomatic of a changed historical situation. Jivak moved in a world of new kind of settlement like the city. The city flourished in a universe of prosperous villages. Village was the basic unit of social, political organization of Maharashtra. So, we take a round of village of 6th century BC. Next is villages. Villages, we use village as a gaon. In the Mahajanpadas, the basic unit of settlement was the gaon, which is Prakrit and Pali language is equivalent of Sanskrit grammar, meaning a village. Remember the grammar of early Vedic times? It used to be mobile unit of people. When two gram came together, it led to sangram, means battle. This was because they were mobile units, and when two hostile grammas met, it led to attempt at snatching away each other's cattle. Villages of 6th century BCE were settlements where people generally pursued agricultural activities. There were various kinds of small and large villages inhabited by a single household or many families. Households seem to have been part of an extended kin group, meaning that everyone was related to everyone else in the village. However, with the emergence of families who had large 273 land holdings, who employed the labor of dasas, karmkaras, and porisas, villages inhabited by non-kinship group also came into existence. There are references of land ownership and tenancy rights of varied kinds. Kasaka and Setrika donated common peasants who were generally Shudras. Leaders of villages were called Gamini. Leaders of villages called Gamini. And the Gamini are also referred to as soldiers, elephant and horse trainers, stage managers. The trend towards increasing craft specialization is evident from references to villages of cattle keepers, ironsmiths, woodworkers, etc. These references to villages specializing in activities other than agriculture operations are indicative of increasing trade and prospering economy. Next, after village, we use towns and the cities. Towns, cities. Towns and cities dominated by kings and the merchants by, but at the same time containing a heterogeneous population were the new kind of settlements which came into existence during this period. As we have seen, there are various referred to as Pura, Nigam, and Nagar. Difference among these settlements are not clear. What was the difference between Pur, Nigam, and Nagar? They probably refer to size as well as varying features of the settlements. These towns and cities were substantially larger than villages. Contemporary literature refers to a big city like Ayodhya, Varanasi, covering anywhere between 30 to 50 square kilometer of area. These accounts are exaggerated, covering anywhere between exaggerating as the excavation conducted in these cities show modest settlements in this period. However, the historic phase is associated with settlements using a deluxe pottery called Northern Black Polished Ware. The settlements witnessed an increase in trade and population. Massive fortifications. Just a second. Yes, we have studied about villages. Next, 16 Mahajanpadas. Earlier, we have seen 16 Mahajanpadas name and their capital also. Now we will discuss references to 16 Mahajanpadas in ancient literature. Buddhist sources refer to the presence of 16 Mahajanpadas in the period when Buddha lived. The Mahajanpadas and their major settlements are found mentioned repeatedly when references to the Buddha are made in Buddhist texts. Exact dates of his life are still disputed by historians. It is generally believed that his life spanned parts of both 6th and 5th centuries BCE, and Buddhist texts refer to his life are therefore taken to reflect the society of this period. The list of Mahajanpadas varies from text to text. We can get a fair idea of political and economic condition of various regions of India by studying these lists. These Mahajanpadas represented a conglomerate of thousands of villages and few cities. Next, the Buddhist text Anguttara Nikaya, which is a part of Sutta Pitaka, gives the following text of 16 Mahajanpadas in the time of Buddha. 16 Mahajanpadas means Kashi, Kuru, Kaushal, Panchal, Anga, Matsya, Magad, Surse, Vajji, Assak, Malla, Avanti, Chedi, Gandhar, Vats, Kamboj. These are the 16 Mahajanpadas of the period which we have seen in Anguttara Nikaya, and Anguttara Nikaya is the part of Sutta Pitaka. Another Buddhist works of Mahavastu gives a similar list of 16 Mahajanpadas. This list indicates a gradual shift of focus to Middle Gangetic Valley because most of the Mahajanpadas were located in this area. Gangetic Valley, connected. Next, we have studied about 16 Mahajanpadas. Now we are going to start about to know the society, how the society worked there. Society. The later Vedic society seems to reflect a shift to new geographical region, the upper and middle Gangetic Valley, as well as the consolidation of agrarian economy. Appearance of rulers and others who enjoyed the share of wealth produced by society without producing any wealth themselves. Institutionalized inequality in society. This institutionalization of inequality meant the emergence of state and the state apparatus. It also meant further consolidation of the theory of the division of society into four varnas, because the varna theory elaborated the way in which four different sections of society would perform their duties. We have studied. We have variety of texts which provide us with information about society and economy of 6th to 4th century BCE period. There are many Brahminical texts meant to reconstruct the people of performance, day by day rites and rituals. They are called the Griha Sutra, Sarathustra, Dharam Sutra. Among these, manuals some texts like those of Apastamba belong to this period. The grammar of Panini provides brief references to many communities in those periods. Our primary sources of information about this period are various Buddhist texts written in Pali language. The early Buddhist canons date back to the period between 6th to 4th centuries. Our knowledge about the contemporary society is also enriched by the Society of Archaeological Sites related to Northern Black Forest View. The society of 6th to 4th century BCE is a society undergoing tremendous change. Preachers, princes, merchants via for our attention. This was a time when cities came into existence for the second time in historical India. This was also the time when a literate tradition began. Towards the end of this period, the society had acquired the knowledge of writing. The earliest script of ancient India is called the Brahmi script. The invention of writing expanded the horizon of knowledge. Socially acquired knowledge had been transmitted through memorization from the generation to another. There was a possibility of lots of things being forgotten or changed over a period of time. The invention of writing meant that knowledge could be stored without tampering with it. This fact heightened the consciousness of change. This was because the social structure and beliefs kept changing in time. Once things were written down, those changes became observable to the people of subsequent period when ideas and beliefs had changed. Kshatriyas. The Kshatriyas appear to be the most visible and powerful section of society. The Buddha and Mahavira belong to this group. In the Brahminical text, the Kshatriyas have been equated with warrior class. Yes, it is also written in Brahminical text. This is the second highest Varna in the order. They were supposed to be ruler of the society. The Buddhist literature gives a different picture of them. They did not have the compactness and strict rules of marriage which characterize a caste. They are mentioned as ruling lineages of Gana Sanghas, like those in Vaishali, Kapilvastu, referred to as Shakyas, Lichavis, Mallas. They were group who owned land collectively. Their land was cultivated by slaves, laborers called dasas, and kankaras. They do not seem to have performed the Brahminical rituals. Buddhist literature generally talks of only two groups of Ganasanghas. They are the high caste and low caste. In these areas, instead of four-fold Brahminical caste structure, there is two-fold division, upper class and lower class. The Brahmins and Shudras are missing. These Kshatriya clans practiced various kinds of marriage customs, which include cross cousin marriage also. In fact, they were so particular about whom to marry and not to marry that the Shakyas are supposed to have been destroyed because of this. According to a story, their overlord, the king of Kaushala called Prasenjit, wanted to marry a Shakya girl. The Shakyas could not refuse the offer, so they sent a Shakya slave girl who was married to the king. The progeny of this marriage succeeded to the throne. Upon discovering this ruse played by the Shakyas, he destroyed them in anger. Although both the Kosalan monarch and Sakyas were Kshatriyas, they did not intermarry. This indicates that the Kshatriyas were not a caste in the sense we understand it. They were very proud of their lineage and status. The Shakyas, Lichavis, Mallas, and other such clans jealously guard their rights of entry in their assemblies, and other people were not allowed into these places. These assemblies decided most of the socio-political issues of the society. Variety of activities like preaching, like trading, like supervising agriculture. Who were performing these activities? Brahmins were performing. In the kingdom of Kashi and Kaushal, the rulers also referred to as Kshatriyas. Unlike Brahminical sources, the Buddhist sources place them at the top of the fourfold caste Brahmin structure. In one of the discourse of Buddha says, even when a Kshatriya has fallen into the lowest depth, he is still the best and Brahmins are low in comparison to him. Some of the Kshatriyas also shown as learned teachers, learned thinkers also. Some others are deciphered, are described as taking to trade. As such, one can say that the Brahminical notion of Kshatriya as the warrior caste was applicable to only some princely families in the upper and middle Gangetic plains. They performed a variety of activities like preaching, like trading, like supervising agriculture, where, especially in eastern India, the Kshatriya did not exist as a caste. Rather than it was many separate groups who called themselves Kshatriyas. The first among the fourfold Varnas was Brahmins. What was the role of Brahmins in the society? Performing sacrifices, highest class, highest caste, performing sacrifices, chanting mantras, chanting Vedas. Okay, the preachers and the teachers, they were known as Brahmins. The Shakpat Brahman, a contemporary Brahminical text, mentioned the following four important marks of a Brahmin: Brahminical percentage, suitable behavior, attainment of fame, teaching of man. For doing this, they were supposed to enjoy certain privileges. They were to be respected, given presents, were given immunity from death sentence. Many Brahmins did not follow the life of renouncement and teaching. Buddhist literature is generally critical of them. It is critical of those who have derived from pious ethical life. They criticize excessive ritualism, excessive greediness of Brahmins. Many Brahmins embraced Buddhism. It had been found that among the early followers of the Buddha and Brahmins were present in largest number. Pali literature also indicate that they had taken to various kind of professions. In the Dasambar, in the Dasam Brahma Jataka, we are told a story which will give us an idea of Buddhist attitude towards the Brahmins. In ancient times, there reigned in the city of Indrapatta, in the kingdom of Kuru king Kauravya of family of Yudhishthir. He was advised by his master Vidur in worldly and spiritual things. He gave him a seat and asked his advice. Sikh Brahmins, Kaurva who are victorious, and learned men who, achieving sensual pleasure, would enjoy my gift. Gifts, O friend, we will make where what is given will be a reach. Very difficult to find are the Brahmins. O king, who are victorious and learned, who eschewing sensual pleasures would enjoy your rights. Verily, there are 10 classes of Brahmins, O king. Here, when I distinguish and classify them clearly, provide with roots, they gather herbs, they gather bath, mutter, Aprohisma. Physicians, they resemble. Physicians, they great king, to such we will go. Straight have they, replies King Corabia. Little bells they carry from you and ring. Messages also they carry, and they know how to drive wagons, servants, they resemblance. These were the lines written for the Brahmins. With long nails, hair on body, 50 teeth, 50 hair, covered with dust, dirt, they go out as beggars. Woodcutters, they resembles. Mango, jackfruits, baskets made of sugar, scans, honey, ointment, the most diverse wares they sell all over. There are so many things which they were taught to the god by prayers. Sheep are also slaughtered there. Buffaloes, swine, goats, slaughtered, they resembles. Yes. Next, Vaishyas and then Gayapatis. After Vaishyas, Shudras. And after Shudra, economy. Vaishyas. Who were known as Vaishya? Buddhist literature, on the other hand, used the term Gyapati more frequently. We have discussed earlier. Gyapati literally means master of the household. Master of the household. This community of landholders cultivated its land with family, labor, or the labor of slaves and servants. They seem to have emerged out of Rajanya groups mentioned in the Vedic literature. Their emergence represents the emergence of family and individual ownership of wealth. Was collectively owned by entire lineage. Apart from the Gyapati and Buddhist literature, mention a whole range of professionals and merchants who would fall under the category of Vaishyas of the Brahminical text. Each of them were close kinship groups who would not intermarry. Their identity was defined by the kind of professions they followed and by their geographical location. As such, there never was a Vaishya caste in the Brahminical sense of the term. Rather, there were many groups having caste like formations. Let us look at some of these groups. As already mentioned, the Gayapatis form a prominent category of landowners. Interestingly enough, they are rarely found in the Gan Sangha, where land was owned by Kshatriya lineages. They are frequently mentioned in monarchies of the Middle Gangetic Valley. They were the primarily exploiters of agriculture and the source of revenue for the kings. They included men of wealth who were also associated with carpenter, medicine, etc. Pali text use another term, kutumbika, in synonymous sense, which would mean head of the household, kutumba. They are shown as rich landowners dealing in corn or money transactions. It was form of class of rich landowners that a section of rich traders evolved. Gyapatis are mentioned in trading towns too. Individual ownership of wealth and weak Brahminical influence helped the Gyapati house. Gyapatis used their wealth for trade. In western Gangetic Valley, this wealth would have been used for sacrifices. Thus, out of this branching off emerged the class of Seti. The word Seti literally means a person having the best. The Seti Gapati referring to a very rich merchant, banker having close contacts with the king. Anathapigupindika, who denote the Jetavana in Shravasti to the Buddha, was one such rich Seti. A Seti in Benares engaged in trade and drives a caravan of 500 wagons. Their profession as bankers flourished with the invention of coins called shatama. Shatma means shatama, karshapan, mentioned in the contemporary literature. Exchange also have shown that coins had come in use. By this period, long distance trade is frequently mentioned over there. Apart from big merchants and landlords, many small scale traders are also mentioned, among them shopkeepers, retailers, traders, peddlers, selling pots, pans, carpenters, ivory carvers, garland makers, smiths can be mentioned. These groups form professional units. No one else but a family member could take up the profession. This local division of different kind of work and hereditary character of various professions gave them the character of guilds. They used to have a head who would look after their interest. The king was supposed to respect internal rules of the guild and protect it. The presence of guild indicates increased trading and manufacturing activity. It means that groups identified, especially on the basis of their economic entity, came into existence. Next, आ जाओ Shudra. Shudra means the fourth order of the Varna system. Fourth and the last order of the Varna system means Shudra. The Shudra were lowest caste of Brahminical order. Their only duty was service to the other caste. One, two, three. The non-Brahminical text gave us a picture of many oppressed and the poor people who were backed as Shudras. Pali literature frequently mentioned dasas and karmkaras. The term Dalit is used for denoting extremely poor people who did not have anything to eat, no covering for their back. So, for the first time, we have references to the rich living in luxury and the poor destitute. The process of such impoverishment and the formation of Shudra caste may be attributed to the appropriation of land and other resources by powerful groups. The Shudras without any resources were reduced to servility and forced to work on land of the rich. The Dharmsutras ascribe the origin of various groups of the Shudra by the notion of Sankirna Jati, which means that if there is an intercaste marriage, their progeny would be of a very low caste. This was the counterpart in ritual status to economy and social deprivation of peasants, slaves. All the groups, just like Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra mentioned above, by no means exhaust the list of social categories present in the time of Buddha. Wandering dancers, wandering musicians moved from village to village, market to market, and impressed their audience with their skills. Tricksters, tramps, elephant tamers, stage managers, soldiers, writers, archers, and hunters and barbers were some of the groups which come in our view. It is difficult to place them in any caste order. Probably they would be considered outcasts. Most of them were outcast outside the pale of the newly emerged agrarian society. As such, as such, they were generally despised. Sometimes they groups. These groups rose in revolt. Jataka stories are full of description of war. Poor Shudras are mentioned as living outside the city. The logical outcome of this process was emergence of untouchability. Yes, the Chandalas are described inveiling in separate villages. Their presence was believed to be so polluting that the daughter of Seti washed her eyes on seeing a Chandala. Similarly, a Brahman is disturbed about the fact that a breeze blowing past a Chandala would touch him. Breeze blowing past a Chandala would touch him. They were supposed to wear garments of the dead and eat their food out of broken pots. Other such despised group were Pukusas, Nishadas, Venas. One of the justification of the king's rule was that the protected villages from the plundering tribes, these were primitive communities who were gradually evicted from their homes in the forest. Economy was very good of Magadha Empire. That is very important. If the question will come, what was the reasons behind the successfulness of Magadha Empire? Why was the Magadha Empire was considered very important? Then how will you answer and what will you answer? Because this question is very, very, very important and this question will come into your exam also. If this question will come into exam, then I will make you sure that you will write these points in this answer. I will give you the some points, some important points in our next class. Sure. Okay. Means we have studied about Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, the four varnas of the society, which were made by the Brahmins, not by any other person. And the Gautam Buddha opposed these four varnas because when we are talking about Gautam Buddha, we are talking about Pitakas, we are talking about Jataka stories, and there is no discrimination between the society, between the upper class and the lower class. There is no differentiation. But if we see the Brahmanical text, Dharma Sutras, Dharma Shastras, Manusmriti, and all these, then we can see the differentiation between these things. This is really very very bad thing which the Shudras were prevailing at that time. They were facing a lot of problems. They were facing when they used to move inside the city. They used to just like clap like this, and they used to say that go too far away from us and go inside your houses. We are coming. Shudras are coming. They used to clap like this, clapper sounds. That is really very bad thing for the Shudras. Brahmins, Gautam Buddha opposed this. Gautam Buddha used to say that there is no differentiation on behalf of birth. Okay, we all are equal on behalf of birth. On behalf of karmas, we are not equal. Gautam Buddha used to say that. The recognition of a person is on the behalf of his karma, not on the behalf of his birth. Because nowadays we all used to, if we meet any single person, then we say that from which community you are belonging to. This is not the proper question. The proper question should be like, what are you doing? What is your job? What are what are your hard works in gaining this job? So, if in this case we can say Gautam Buddha was right, and the Brahminical text was not that much good for them. In the in case of monks, yes, we will continue this in our next class surely. The teachings of Gautam Buddha we will learn in our next class, and what was the rise, what was the reason of the rise of Mahajanpada, Magadha Mahajanpada, what was the reason behind this, we will see this. Now we are going to end this class, we will start from this economy in our next class. Thank you and have a nice day.